Welcome to tonight's tale, a fairy tale podcast. We are going through in season 2 every single one of the canon movie tales. I'm your host, Emily, joined by my co-host, Eric.
Hi, it's me, Eric.
And we're joined by, I think, our most frequent guest host from season 1, Melina.
Hi, it's Melina.
So tonight we are reviewing the episode Red Riding Hood. I'm very excited to be going over this one. It's kind of a quirky episode. Eric, what did we decide? Are we calling these movies or episodes?
So I think because it's canon movie tales, I think they're movies. I think we should
Okay.
call it installment.
Stallman,
It's
I
like,
like that.
and really the funny thing about these is that we don't really know the order because Rumpelstiltskin was the only one to come out in the theater, and then the other ones just subsequently just came out on TV and VHS. So yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little different than Fairy Tale Theater where that had an actual premiere date. We don't really know that for this, so it's a little weird.
We're trying to go in order of release date, but honestly, it's a little convoluted. So we're doing our best here, folks.
This one came out supposedly like around 87, I guess, and the director was Adam Brooks,
Okay.
who did a lot of cool things. So I think, yeah, Practical Magic he wrote. He wrote one of the Bridget
Nicole
Jones
Kidman?
movies.
Wait,
Yeah, with Nicole Kidman, Practical Magic, he wrote that.
did you say
He was a
Bridget
screenwriter.
Jones?
He wrote the really bad, The Edge of Reason, the 2004, one of the
Oh,
bad sequels, one of the bad sequels.
that was so bad. Oh,
Yeah, it was not a good
yeah.
one. It was not a good one, but I love Practical Magic, so that's good.
Well, I actually love,
Same.
yeah, same. And I love Red Riding Hood. So I guess that leads me into our first question, which is before our rewatch. Hey, Melina, how familiar are you with the canon movie tales?
I was not familiar at all. The only one I had ever seen was Hansel and Gretel with Cloris Leachman, and I saw it randomly. It came up on my For You feed or something like that, and I was like, oh, like I never watched them as a kid. Still don't know a whole lot about it. So I went into watching Little Red Riding Hood completely blind.
We kind of roped you into it, huh?
That's okay though. That's okay.
Hey, you're our go-to. You know that. We trust you. And interested in your feedback in this. Well, I guess, Eric, this applies to you and me because we grew up with this one more or less. What do we remember about Red Riding Hood? I will go first. I remember this one was one that it took me a while to find. I had to hunt for it. I grew up with Rumpelstiltskin, Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty. Oh, and Frog Prince. And then when I realized they were all connected, I had to chase the others down. This one took me a little while to find, but I remember being intrigued because I remember going, Isabella Rossellini is in it?
My exact response.
You texted us. You're like, Isabella Rossellini is in it?
Like all caps. And you were like, welcome to the chat.
I remember that this one was the first one that came out on DVD. So for
It.
some reason,
Oh.
for some reason when MGM re-released these on DVD, this was the first one that they did. I don't know if they were like trying to use it to test like audiences or something, but this was the first one they released on DVD. It was really weird,
I
but it was a
didn't remember
choice.
that. That seems a little random.
Yeah, it was really,
Um,
really random.
I do remember in terms of first impressions, I remember Isabella Rossellini looking more beautiful than any woman has a right to look. And little Amelia Shankley, Eric, you and I have talked about this before. She was in the only good version of A Little Princess, to my mind. She was in a
Yeah.
spectacular BBC production of Little Princess, the only one I know of that follows the book verbatim. And I remember Craig T. Nelson in a dual role, although I don't remember I didn't remember him that vividly when I first sat down to do my rewatch, but I did have a lot of memories of Rocco Sisto playing the wolf, and we're going to talk a lot more about his contribution later. Eric?
Yeah, the Craig T. Nelson thing I forgot too. I, for some reason, blocked that whole subplot of the twin brothers and the king that practices black magic. Like all of that completely went out of my brain. For some reason, didn't remember until I started watching because I looked at the cover and I saw Craig T. Nelson. I was like, wait, I don't remember how this goes. Is he like the dad? How does this work? And then it all came together. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
That must have been why I didn't retain that. It was probably not very memorable
it
to
was a
me.
little convoluted, I think.
They were really trying. They were really trying to add a subplot there. But we'll get to that. We'll talk about that. So
So, do you remember Rocco Sisto in this episode, Eric?
I once again, as with every time of watching this, that Never Talk to Strangers song was a constant earworm that I was just singing nonstop after watching it yet again this rewatch.
Me too.
So good.
So, listeners, we've got a rare treat coming up. We are talking to Rocco Sisto, who played the wolf. He's agreed to talk to us and share some of his memories. So, we're very excited to talk to him, and that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited to share it. I think it'll be interesting to hear how these were behind the scenes, you know? It'll be really fun to hear
So
what
that
he
was,
has to say.
yeah, so that was very kind of him to agree to join us, and we're looking forward to talking to him. Okay, this might be a little repetitive, Melina, since you've been in a lot of our episodes last season, but how familiar is everyone with the original tale?
So I'm super familiar with it. I collect vintage fairy tale books, mostly because of Shelley. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but Little Red Riding Hood is in every single one of those books. And it's one that I don't read super often, but there's just something very special about it. And of course, don't talk to strangers is kind of the moral of the story. But what I like about the original is kind of the darkness of it, specifically with like cutting the wolf's stomach open, filling it with rocks, throwing him in the river.
Yeah,
Everything
it's
you
a
want
pretty brutal tale.
in a children's story. Yeah, yeah. As I got older, I liked that about it of like, yes, give the predators what they deserve.
I agree. Eric, you have any thoughts on the original tale?
As far as I know, this is as far from the original tale as you can get. I feel like the at least fairy tale theater somewhat followed the plot, and I feel like this went kind of off the rails and a lot of different subplots and things like that. But it's very different. Let's just put it that way.
Slightly disagree
But
with you.
does that make it more interesting?
Well,
But
that's
does
that's a
that make
good
it more
point.
interesting?
I
Does that
disagree
make it maybe
somewhat, Eric. I don't think it's completely different from the story. I just think they added a lot. But the core of Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf and eating
The
little
message.
bread,
Yeah.
I mean that part is in there,
Yeah, it's in there.
deep, deep, deep in
Deep
there.
in
in like the
there.
last in like the last 15 minutes?
I know after about an hour and 10 minutes of the twin brothers.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And courting the mom. It was like a whole like Hamlet kind of like saga. Oh God.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
a lot of
So
fluff
weird.
added. We'll certainly get into it, but I disagree that it didn't follow the story. It did. They just added a lot.
A
A
lot.
lot. And threw a bad wig on top.
Oh.
Okay.
Can't wait for that
I
to
think
talk
I
about
think
that
we've got a
wig.
preview of where this review's gonna go, but maybe this question is repetitive, but Eric, what do you remember thinking of the movie when you first saw it?
I remember liking it.
Same.
I do remember it always being strange to me. I
Same.
do remember that. But I do remember liking it. I do remember really the two things that really stood out for me were always Rocco's character as Dagger, was his name Dagger the wolf,
Yeah, Dagger.
and Amelia Shankley's Little Red, who I believe
Ah,
her character's name is Lynette.
yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, so those two were always the ones that always stood out to me. I always really remember those scenes. Those stood out in my mind, probably because I love that song, like I said. But I really, I'd say this is like one of the top ones for me. probably was. This is probably one of the ones that I watched often because I think either my Blockbuster or my library had it, and I was able to rent it often. So
Agree with you for the most part. I remember liking it a lot. I do remember having a lot of questions like, was this necessary? Was that necessary? The two things that stood out also, Rocco as the wolf. Listeners, just be prepared. We're just going to call him Rocco, probably. Wolf, Dagger, you know who we're talking about.
Rocco and Amelia.
And Isabella. I remember Isabella Rossellini very vividly, and I remember thinking the woman is beautiful. She's a great actress. I love her very much. Singing is not her strong suit.
Lady Jean.
They had a lot of Norman names. I noticed that. Percival and
Oh yeah.
Lynette and Godfrey. They had a lot of Norman names. I'm not sure why, but anyways. So, okay, I guess moving into our rewatch. Starts with our title sequence with our snappy little theme. Melina, I'm interested in your thoughts from the very beginning since this was a first time watch for you.
Yeah. I at first was like, did I click on the right thing when it started? But then I really liked how Lynette is an actual child. I liked how it was
Ah,
someone young actually playing Red Riding Hood. That's what I really liked. And we kind of mentioned this in our Goldilocks one, where sure, Tatum O'Neal was great, but someone younger would have made it more believable. And so right away, when I was like, oh, she's actually a child, I can believe this more than if it was not a child. And she's running through the woods because she's trying to see a fairy. And I'm like, girl after my own heart. It kind of
aw.
reminded me in Lord of the Rings when Frodo and Sam hear the wood elves when they're on their way to Bree. And I was like, oh, this is really sweet. So I liked the opening of it. I was a little confused at first because obviously it's nothing like the original story or the fairy tale theater one that I'm more familiar with. And I thought her little outfit is so cute. And then the minute she walked on that branch, I knew I was like, is it going to snap? That's what always happens. But luckily, she just lost a shoe.
Wolf's watching
And
her.
then there's the dog, wolf dog. Looked
Wolf
more like
dog.
a German shepherd to me. But
Go with it.
I'm sure he was a very good boy. I'm sure he was a very good boy. Yeah, wolf dog.
Wolf dog.
And then she loses her shoe and she's shouting for help.
Yeah. Did
And
you
I'm
notice
like,
our
and I like,
introduction to Red Riding Hood? She's wearing a yellow dress, same as in the fairy tale theater version.
Oh,
oh,
I didn't catch that, but now I got it.
that's actually a really good. I caught two other connections, but it's more like casting connections because of course Mary Steenburgen is Little Red in Fairy Tale Theater, and Craig T. Nelson is in this version, and they play a married couple in book club. And then Isabella Rossellini's Fairy Tale Theater connection is she was in a film from the 90s called The Siege of Venice with Tom Conti, who was the prince
Oh
in
my
Princess
God,
and the Pea.
where she was. Isabella Rossellini, to be
Yeah.
fair, is connected to everybody.
Oh,
Either
especially because
on
of her
her,
parents.
oh, yeah, between her parents, Ingrid Bergman and Roberta Rossellini, she's connected to everybody. And
Yes.
deservedly
But
so.
what I
She's
liked,
fantastic.
oh, absolutely. And what I loved about just going back to the yellow dress in the opening scene, what I loved about that is we automatically get a glimpse into Lynette's character, is that she's adventurous, she believes in fairies, she believes in magic, she's very strong-willed. So even though it's a simple scene of her running through the woods and like walking on tree branches, I like very much how it's set up kind of her like thirst for adventure, which we know Little Red to have. So I really liked that.
I can see that. And actually, I like how you brought up Goldilocks earlier. I'm seeing a comparison between Fairy Tale Theater's Goldilocks and Red Riding Hood here. I see a similarity, the boldness, the going out to
Yeah.
explore. I hadn't quite caught that, but although I did have a note, she looks a little old to be believing in elves, but
You're
is
never
that
too
me?
old to believe in elves.
Okay, that's Emily being a cynic. All right, I'll take it.